Nigel Farage describes Hillary as sad and pathetic. Our readers have no doubt seen the clips of failed Democrat presidential candidate Hillary Clinton coming up with dozens of reasons why she lost except for herself during her recent appearance at a technology conference in California. According to the Daily Caller, British politician, Brexit movement leader, outspoken supporter of President Donald Trump, and Fox News contributor Nigel Farage joined the Fox and Friends crew Thursday morning to discuss Clinton's comments, and let's just say that Farage didn't have much of anything nice to say about them. I don't think it's worth getting angry about Hillary, Farage said. I just think she looks sad and pathetic. There is nothing worse in life than a bad loser. Nothing worse than somebody who blames absolutely everybody else for their own failings. Let's face it, she represented an out-of-touch, out-of-date establishment, he continued. She almost appeared as if it was her right to become the president, and I'm very pleased she didn't. Hillary Clinton isn't worth getting angry over. She looks sad and pathetic. She's a bad loser. From now on, let's ignore her. That's a tweet from Fox and Friends. I tell you what, from now on, let's just ignore her, Farage said. We'll get the whole video on the bottom. According to Newsmax, Farage continued to speak about the political establishment and how its many elite members still haven't accepted the reality of Brexit and the election of President Donald Trump. They are still not reconciled to it, he said. They have had their own way for far too long. They haven't recognized that the world has changed. Farage also spoke of the work being done regarding Brexit in his home country by Prime Minister Theresa May and the challenges she faces in the upcoming June 8th general election in the United Kingdom. The outspoken British politician also addressed the Kathy Griffin severed Trump head fiasco and noted that he was glad to see much kickback, quote, against the unfunny comedian, relating it to his own experience with a British comedian who has publicly called for Farage to be stabbed, yet is still accepted by society and is even featured regularly on BBC. Farage was definitely on target when he said that Hillary Clinton looked sad and pathetic as she grasped for whatever straw she could in search for anything to blame her dismal electoral showing on. His suggestion that Americans just ignore her was also a good one, though the Democrats and their media allies are unlikely to follow it. But the country would be better off if Hillary would just go back to walking quietly in the woods around Chappaqua while Trump conservatives and Republicans attempt to fix what Clinton and her ilk have screwed up. Let's take a listen to it. Unbelievable.
He does have a visceral grasp of America's political underbelly. He really understands how to inflame people, how to motivate them, how to bond with them over whatever their grievance is. You know, whatever resentment or point of anger that you may have, if he can get into it, whether it's race or sex or xenophobia or anti-Islamophobia, whatever it is. And so we're seeing it on a broader stage. And it is deeply troubling for not only our politics, but for our position in the world.
Aren't those chairs you sit in for video games very close to the ground, right? I mean, you're sitting there when you're playing Space Invaders.
Either that or she's in like an old seat from a Delta plane.
Right, absolutely.
Why
waste them?
Right. All right, let's bring in the former UK Independence Party leader and Fox News contributor, Mr. Nigel Farage. Hello, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning. We want to hear your reaction. What do you think of Hillary last night talking about how the American people are racist, they're sexist, xenophobic, and we want to know, is this a global argument of the left?
She also blamed the New York Times.
And the DNC.
Yes, well, I mean, Hillary said the same things about me when I came across and supported Donald Trump in his campaign. I don't think it's worth getting angry about Hillary. I just think she looks sad and pathetic. There is nothing worse in life than a bad loser. Nothing worse than somebody who blames absolutely everybody else for their own failings. And let's face it, you know, she represented an out-of-touch, out-of-date establishment. She almost appeared as if it was her right to become the president, and I'm very pleased she didn't. Let's just, I tell you what, from now on, let's just ignore her.
Nigel, I think a lot of people in her own party must be shaking their heads saying, how can we turn the page if she won't? Because, like it or not, she represents a lot of money and established power.
Yeah, well, the establishment has been very sore. I mean, look, 2016, we had Brexit, we had Trump. They still haven't got over it. They're still not reconciled to it. They've had it their own way for far too long. They haven't recognised that the world has changed.
Well, absolutely. Part of the world changing was the Brexit upset that no one saw coming.
People started waking up because of the internet.
We have to follow through with that. And there's reports now out of the UK that Theresa May's lead and the Conservatives is at a record low of 3 points. So are you concerned that there could be a Brexit upset there?
Well, Theresa May took on the agenda that I've been pushing for the last 20 years, and it was great to see a British Prime Minister making all those arguments and saying Brexit must mean Brexit. The problem is the British public didn't really know her very well, and she herself had backed Remain in the election last year. She's performed a whole series of U-turns on domestic politics, and it seems now that the more Theresa May appears on our TV screens, the less people like her. And that's the main reason why her lead's gone down. And I think what you're going to see in the last week of this campaign is a lot more of Boris Johnson and people like that, and a lot less of Theresa May.
Does that surprise you?
Bombing.
Does it surprise you after Manchester? Because usually after an attack like that, you see a community coming together. She's been out speaking publicly about it.
Well, look, I think you forget that for 6 years, she was our Home Secretary. She was in charge of dealing with the terror threat. And you know something? We've allowed nearly 400 jihadi fighters back into Britain from Syria and only prevented one of them from coming back. So actually, the public are saying, when she was in charge of this stuff, she wasn't tough, she didn't deal with it, and so there is a real crisis of confidence in, you know, can this person stick to a course?
Right, and of course Hollande's out for a myriad of reasons, one of which is he couldn't keep anybody in France safe because of the myriad of attacks there.
You can learn a lot from this.
So let's talk about any semblance of decency. Kathy Griffin, a comedian here, came out and held the president's, a mock of president's head. We've all seen the picture already. Do you think we've reached a tipping point where some degree of civility will come back in, being that both sides are so outraged by this? Or am I just in
Well, I hope
world?
so. I hope so. 2 years ago, a very well-known stand-up comedian in this country advocated publicly to audiences that I should be stabbed, would you believe? Complaints were made to the police. The guy got off without any charges, and the BBC, our main national state broadcaster, still repeatedly used this guy. And when I saw what had happened, this sick image, it's supposed to be funny, but it wasn't, of Trump, and I'm pleased to see at last there is some kickback against these left-wing politicians who have gone away with outrages for years. I see this actually as good news. I think we've turned a corner back towards something rather more decent.
Yeah, I guess as long as we turn that corner and there's nothing there as opposed to something else even further. Nigel Farage, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Absolutely, absolutely. I like what he says. Sorry about that. I like what he says. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and thank you so much for watching.